Welcome back to my channel. This is Reefer James. We're down here with the display scrubber, the Monster Algae Turf Scrubber. I call it the Monster Algae Turf Scrubber because it's so big. It's made out of a 55-gallon barrel cut long ways. But its real name is the Algae Turf Scrubber. The Algae Turf Scrubber. And what it does, as you can see, the water, as your tank lights for your aquariums, for your reef aquariums, now we're talking strictly reef aquariums. I don't know how well an algae turf scrubber would work on a freshwater system. I guess just as well, right? But on a reef aquarium, as the tank cycles are at night and off, your algae turf scrubber lights are on. So the most desirable spectrum of algae that for the light spectrum for the algae turf scrubbers, after 6 years of running this, I've had more success with the red spectrum in the 600 NM, is it? Ultraviolet, 630 to 660 NM, pink. I've tried the curly cube lights, the 2700K lights, and they just don't work. They don't grow the algae nice. This pink spectrum grows the algae nice dark green. And it's been keeping my reef aquariums algae free. Now, these screens are just been cleaned recently because I have a small drip on the return. Let me move the camera a little bit. Kitty's down there already. Let me get over here where you can see. I'm going to zoom in. Right there. There you go. Concentrate right there. As you can see, I'm going to point it out to you. This is just the one top end of the barrel. This is where the bung cover cap screw went in. I used the bung cover, but I also used Rust-Oleum's epoxy shield. It comes in a 2-part formula in tubs of epoxy. And I really epoxied it in the threads and everything and let it hard. It's hard as steel right now. So that was already there. And then on the other half of the barrel that I cut off, there was another hole, of course. There's 2 holes per barrel. As you can see on my RO barrel. This is the same type of barrel that I used. You can see there's 2 bung covers, minus my Chicago Bears coffee cup. Excuse me, but you can see there's 2 bung covers, caps. So the return to my ruby sump on my display system, I had to make a return hole. I cut a 1-inch hole here through the barrel, but I cut it too low. It wasn't really on the flat spot of the plastic, and it ran for 6 years without leaks. But it started leaking this week, just a small leak through the epoxy shield that I had on there for 6 years. So I had to shut down the scrubber. So while I shut it down, I took advantage and cleaned both screens, which you don't normally do as it's running when everything's okay. But since it was going to be down for a few days, I cleaned the screens real good. There is some green starting to come back, I can see. You see the green hue. It grows really quickly. Within days, there'll be algae growing on it already. So as I shut it down, I had to siphon all the copepods and algae that's at the bottom of the pan. It used to look like this scrubber. This scrubber here, this one's for my trigger system. This is another scrubber. There's no issues with it. I was able to drill the 1-inch return bulk line, as you can see back there, straight on the flatter piece of the plastic of the top. A little higher than the original bunghole. This one's a little lower. I think that's where I made my mistake. So this one is made a little better. The screens are a little bit smaller. I should have made the screens a little wider, but they're quite long, as you can see. So they're a little longer than the ones over here. And there's 2 screens per scrubber. But getting back to this one, so it was leaking a little bit of drip, and it still is. I tried to, I shut it down for 3 days, and I tried to wipe some more epoxy shield over where it was leaking. I can stick my fingernail into it. It takes about a week for it to dry rock hard. You know what? I don't know if it's really leaking anymore. I don't see no really bad drips. Maybe it'll stop on me. I don't know. I'm going to watch it for a week. Let me get a piece of paper towel. Now this is the only problem I've had with this for 6 years. This has been running for 6 years. I've never had any problems with it. It's run great, and it's just a slight slow drip. I just want to stick my paper towel up in here and see if I can get any wetness. And I have. You can see there's a little wet. It looks like it's slowing down. The bucket is not, there's not much in there. Look, that's it. Just a little teaspoon, not even. I keep the bucket there anyway. And I'll be monitoring it on a daily basis, but I had no choice but to start it back up, guys. So when I started it back up, I thought the new epoxy shield that I smeared on it would stop it, but after about a day of several hours of running, I noticed on the floor it was leaking again, and I was really bummed out about it. If you look at the pipe going through the scrubber, so that's the return spout. You can see it right there with the elbow. Right there. You can see at this angle it going into the 1-inch bulkhead. You can see it's kind of on an angle. You know? It's kind of angled like this, like my hand is. It's not straight like the other scrubber. And that's where I went wrong. But anyway, it's been running great. You can see the water's just running nice and uniform. I cleaned out the spray bar pipe, the slot. And I've got water all the way across, non-stop and uniform, running down the screens non-stop at a good rate. I'm using an old Skims controller there on the wall, that white controller. It's an old Skims DC variable drive pump. I have it on the lowest setting. Power setting is 3. It's the lowest. It's using currently 11 watts. It says power 11 watts. That's all I'm using compared to the old Danner mag drives. I used to run the mag drives, at least a 900 or 1200 mag drive, and they would use 150 watts per hour. I'm only using 11 watts per hour. And this will pump up to 3,000 gallons. I think it's 3,000 gallons per hour. Something like that, or 1,800. I'm not sure which pump I have. I have the 4.0. They no longer make the Skims DC pumps. Okay? And my controller's kind of wacky. When I started it back up, I tried adjusting it up and down power-wise, and it was kind of sticking. Like I couldn't get it to go back down, so I couldn't run it that way because it would drain my ruby sump. It has to be on the lowest setting. So I was able to take my fingernail and just kind of hit the edge of the down button until I got it back down to number 3, which is, you won't see right now unless I push the button. But I don't want to do that because it's on its way out. So I'll be replacing the DC drive pump and controller with one from, let's see here, Aqua. I have a different pump over here in the box. Let me read off its name. Can't see. Let me show you the box. Marine Aqua Orlushi. Marine Aqua. Sine wave technology DC water pump variable drive with controller. They still sell these. This is the DC 5000. And this will put out some water, let me tell you. Very cool. There's a brand new pump in here too. I've got 2 of them on standby. Which is another thing. If you're into reefing like I am and you've got a scrubber and you've got 3 DC variable drive pumps in your sump, one for the tank, one for your scrubber, and I also have another one running another tank, a 90. So I have 2 variable drive pumps in my display tank off of this scrubber, and then the other scrubber over here is running my trigger system, which is also hooked to the 90, so I'm running 3 variable drive pumps. One for the 90, one for the 90-gallon tank, and one for the scrubber over here. And what's the one for the 90, one for the trigger tank itself, and one for the scrubber. Okay, 3. And then this system's running 2. So I've done away with the Eugene Danner mag drive pumps altogether. That's a thing of the past. I have a video on the impeller housing, which they call a volute, about them cracking the little center braces that hold your impeller stable and straight inside the pump hole. They break, and then your impeller goes cocked and it rubs inside, and it destroys your pump. I have it under my how-to video list. If you want to check that out, it's very interesting how the old pumps went out of style, and everybody's using DC variable drive pumps now. If you're not, then you should be. Saving power and less parts to wear out. And this Skims pump I've been running for 6-7 years now. And it's just now, the controller just now is taking a crap. I don't know why. Maybe the circuit board from being moisture. Maybe it was too humid down here in the summertime when the circuit boards got corrode on inside it or something. I have no idea. Maybe the buttons messed up. Anyway, it's running now. It's not fluctuating. It's staying on the lowest power, and I was lucky. But if it goes, I'm going to change it out. But as you can see, I have a constant water flow all the way across, which is really excellent. That's what you want. Now, you don't want it running too fast, and you don't want it running too slow, but you want your screens cut about 1 inch above your water surface here, so that the water kind of splashes down a little bit, but not too much. You don't want to make a mess where the water droplets are splashing out of the scrubber. You want it to just trickle down. You just want to hear that water trickle. If you listen, you might be able to hear it. Here, let me show you on both scrubbers what I mean. This one too. Lots of algae growing in the pan. It doesn't matter. The more algae, the better. I don't care where it grows. Sometimes I don't even clean the screens for like 2 or 3 months, I swear. And it still eats the phosphates and nitrates. I can tell you from proof I do not have any hair algae in my display tanks. See if you can hear it dripping here. You hear that? Pretty cool, huh? I've got little flowers like crustaceans or feather dust. I've got feather dusters and little feather flowers like growing in here. Pink. I got pink coralline algae growing, those spots right there. It's unreal. I've got these little stalactite tube worms or something here growing. There's all kinds of life besides all the thousands of copepods that I did have in there, and I know they're going to multiply again. You just can't, once you introduce them, if there's one or two left in your system, just give it time. They will multiply. I think I have a lot in here. They love the detritus. It's excellent to eat the detritus at the bottom of your scrubber, but every now and then, while the scrubbers are running, I will take a small siphon tube. Let me get back on the tripod here. I don't want to hold the camera. I have a smaller siphon tube. This one here I use for the tanks, pretty much. It's kind of a big one, and it's got a half-inch CPVC tube to siphon my bigger tanks, or this one. I don't want to, when I'm siphoning the detritus out of my scrubbers, I don't want to shut the scrubber down. I only want to siphon a little bit of the detritus out at a time, and I want to replace it with fresh salt water. Or I could just wait for the detritus to settle down. You know, I'll have like a 5-gallon bucket, like this one here on the floor. That's a 6-gallon actually, or a 5-gallon. Doesn't matter. And you siphon all that detritus. Now there's brown detritus mixed in with the greenish black algae, dark green algae. You can't really see it with the camera maybe. It usually collects on the sides, okay? This one I've cleaned, so there's not enough detritus in there to show you. But what I'll do, I'll move the bucket over here close to the scrubber, and I'll take this smaller siphon tube, which is, I don't know, about 3/8, with just a little tube, okay? And I'll go in here while it's running, and I'll siphon all the detritus that I can into the 5-gallon bucket, about 5 gallons worth. Before I do that, my I have ATO top-off units here. I have 2 there and 1 here that I'm not using. These 2 down here, this one's for the trigger system, this one's for the display tank of the scrubber I'm showing you. I will pull the wire to the top-off unit so that as I'm siphoning water from the scrubber, my ruby sump underneath my display tank will also, the water level will start to drop in that too. Okay? And I don't want my top-off unit to come on and pump fresh water into the ruby sump, because I will be adding water back into the scrubber. That's how I'm doing a small, tiny little partial water change, even if it's 5 gallons, guys. But if I don't have any salt, what I can do, I'll let this bucket sit with the green water, the dark green crap water, dark as black as coal. I'll let it sit for a few hours, and I'll kind of take my toe and kind of shake the water up like that so the detritus settles down to the bottom. And as soon as it's all down at the bottom, you'll see it clear up. You'll pour the clear water back in. Well, it won't be exactly clear. It'll be tinted a little yellow, but it's safe. You can pour it back in the scrubber, okay? So I'm just removing the detritus from the system. Pretty clever, right? So in this video, I'm going into all these details because there's a little more I want to tell you. There's a little more to it than just that. I'm giving you guys a little bit of knowledge. Those of you who don't know nothing about algae turf scrubbers, you think you do, or you think you know about the the bacteria in your tank and your deep life sand bed, or you think you know all about the nitrogen cycle. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. It's okay. This is what this video is for. So the scrubber is new. They don't want you to know about it in the market because they want you to buy. They want you to keep coming back and buying those damn bio pellets and that GFO shit, the granular ferrite oxide, over and over and over again. Or you might be buying Phosguard, which has those tiny little white beads that absorb phosphate. I do buy that product once in a while. I will buy Phosguard because I like it. I got a few little nylon socks. I'll put a little pouches of it, and I'll throw it in my trigger and my display tank sump from time to time to help it along. And it works. But that's the only thing that's worked that hasn't really tinted my water brown or my equipment like the GFO over time. It just turns everything brown. It's just a pain in the ass, and it's expensive. And the bio pellets, I keep buying bio pellets, and what I didn't like about the bio pellet reactor is that it didn't control my turf algae outbreak that I had 6 years ago. The shit kept growing, and it took over my display tank and my trigger tank. And I have videos on that. I don't know if I've reposted them from that era. If not, I'm going to look through my new videos because I did delete my old email address name, and when I did that, I lost my 700, 800 subscribers, and I didn't lose my videos, but they got deleted off my channel because I started a new channel up under my same name, but with a different email address for certain reasons, because I was getting spam all the time in my email. But I'll dig those videos back up, and I'll show you. I'll go back to that period of time when that damn turf algae outbreak. I don't really know at this day and time. I really can't go back and say, hey, it was Bryopsis or it was green turf algae. I think it was the green turf algae. It was just horrible. I've never seen nothing like it. It took over my tanks within a week. It was 1.5 inches thick, and I was buying this medicine called, I forgot what it's called, fluconazole. Fluconazole is highly expensive. It worked the first time I used it, but it didn't seem to work no more the second time I was using it, and I was still trying to use it afterwards, and it didn't seem like it was working anymore. It's like it wasn't working, and the shit was so expensive, it was unreal. I was spending money up the wazoo, guys. It was awful. Oh man, it was awful. So the moral of the story here, so this turf scrubber, getting off on what I was talking about. It's unreal how good they work. So the industry doesn't want you to know how good they work because they want you to come back and they want you to keep buying that GFO. They want you to keep buying those bio pellets. They want you to buy that Phosguard. They want you to buy this, buy that. They want you to buy that algicide. They want you to keep buying the bio pellets. And what I didn't like about the bio pellets is that you have to have a skimmer running too, to collect all the white moam that gets back into your aquarium, even if you have a recirculating biopellet reactor, which I had specifically built for me from Reef Dynamics, which the guy went out of business now. He's no longer in business, so you can't even get a damn part or whatever. I sold the damn thing. It was just putting moam, even though it had a recycle, I had it hooked to my skimmer, to my ASM skimmer. It was collecting a lot of the moam, but it was a pain in the ass. I mean, I had to keep buying bio pellets as they melted down. The moam was still getting in my tank to a certain percentage, and it wasn't working. The bio pellets did not get rid of my green turf algae syndrome. So the Nutcracker guys, so Reefer James, so what do I do? What the hell do I do if nothing works? Well, you're looking at it right there. You're looking at them. This is the only thing that's kept any kind of algae. I might have a slight fuzz from time to time, but I never have green algae in my tanks again ever. And I don't have to buy nothing. How about that? Can you believe it? believe it. It works. I wouldn't have these things running down in my basement. I wouldn't have gone through the extra aggravation if I wasn't sure that they worked. I have one guy to thank for this that turned me on to Algae Turf Scrubber. Mr. Warrior Pro on YouTube. He's living down south. I haven't talked to him in a long time. I think I still have his phone number. I owe it all to you, brother. If you're watching, I owe this all to you. You're the one that got me hooked on this. You're the one that's helped me. And the guy's not even into aquariums anymore, as far as I know. This guy gave me some advice. He goes, you know what? You need to run an algae. You need to make an algae turf scrubber. I said, are you sure that they work, man? I said, I've heard mixed reviews. Oh, man, they work. He told me, without a shadow of a doubt, the guy told me they work. They don't want you to know that they work. He goes, trust me. And SOB, it works. I haven't had algae in about 5 years, or what was it, 3, 4, 5 years ago I had that outbreak. I haven't had it since. I have had no algae at all on my rocks. I didn't have to scrub my rocks at all. I didn't have to pull no rocks out of my tank. I didn't have to scrub them with a toothbrush underwater and pick the algae off like all these people say recommend to do. I didn't have to do any of that shit. I left everything as it was and the shit disappeared. The algae just disappeared. It died off. It decayed and disappeared, and I have nothing but lush pink, purple coralline, green coralline. I had white coralline for a while, but it's all purple pink now. It's up the pink. I got purple pink, just like the Aerosmith song, Pink. If you haven't heard that song, it's off the Pump album from Aerosmith called Pink. Cool song. Purple pink, luscious coralline algae in all my tanks. It's unreal. It's so cool. My corals are doing better, except my Duncans. My Duncans ain't doing so good right now for some reason. But everything else is doing phenomenal. All the algae grows in the scrubbers. It does not grow in my tanks, guys. This is how they're made. This one, the right spray bar brace is kind of tilted in a little bit. I mean, I need to straighten it out one day. I'm going to refine these. But this is the state-of-the-art monster algae turf scrubber. You're looking at them running. I told you guys I would do a video on the turf scrubbers later in more detail, and this is what I'm trying to do. I just want to give you guys some advice and some help and knowledge, because the more knowledge you have, the more power you have. I don't want to see all you reefers failing out there. I came close to failing. There was a lot of fails and mishaps, and I stuck with it through the years. I've been doing aquariums. I started off in freshwater in 1978, guys. I'll be 60 next year, or this year, next November. I'll be turning the big 60. I started out when I was in my late teens, early 20s, with a 10-gallon, 15-gallon, and 2 Silver Angels that got big as my hands. And from there it took off. I had a 38 long and a 35 long on a cast iron scroll stand. Fresh cichlids I did for a while. I did African cichlids, and then I saw that was a failure because the Dempsey eats everything in the end. And I got away from that. So I wanted to try my hand at saltwater, so I went to saltwater in those 2 tanks. And then I got a 55 in my first marriage with the pine canopy and pine stand, which you guys might have seen in my earlier videos from 10 years ago. I've sold that system off. And from there, I once had a 150-gallon that I bought. I had 70 freshwater tropical fish in there. I had gold severums, green severums, Oscars, bala sharks, plecostomuses, a school of neons, tiger barbs, catfish. I had it all, man. Angelfish, albino Oscar, green Oscar. It was so cool, but it was a lot of work. Less money, but a lot of work. In saltwater, it's more money, and once you get situated, it's less work, actually, believe it or not. It's still a lot of work, but it's less work. A freshwater tank, man, oh my God. The algae that you have to scrub. If you have plastic plants, you got to scrub it off. You got to hydro clean the gravel, the aggregate gravel. It's a lot, man. It's a lot to take in. It's a lot of time. A marine tank's a lot more. Once you get going, you know what you're doing. It's a lot easier, but it still costs a lot of more money. After over time, in the late 90s, I sold that 150 to a supervisor that worked in Libertyville with me, and he brought it down to Chicago and set it up at his mom's house or something. Very cool dude. He bought it from me, and from there, I had the 55 stored underneath my mom's house while I went through a couple marriages, a few divorces. I was on hiatus for about 6-7 years. I didn't do anything. And then when I finally moved back to my mom's, I set up the 55 again, and then I went on my own again. I had to store it again, and then when I met my fourth wife, Reefer Mary, who passed away last year, guys, a year and a half ago almost. God bless her. She let me buy this display tank, this 120 gallon, from a pet store that burned down about 10 years ago called Happy Land. And the guy had it on sale for like $550. He had a Marine Land, 120 gallon long with the stand, the pine stand underneath, and the light, or the strip light, and the glass tops, and the tank for $550. So it was a deal. So Mary let me get it, and we jumped on it, and I put it in the living room. And you can see in one of my earlier videos, I did a demo take video showing it off while it was in the living room when I first started out. And you can see my little blue damsel. He's in that video, and he's still alive to this day, guys. He's in the tank right now. It's unreal. This fish, I had 2 of them, and the one that you see in that video, it's just, it's phenomenal. He's still alive to this day, and he's doing well. I don't know how long he's going to live, but he's been living a long time. He's my oldest fish. He's not even probably 1.25 inches long. 1.25 inches long. And I never had a scrubber up until 8 years ago. Well, let me tell you, this scrubber works. I'll be buying a new barrel, guys, to fix this little drip. You know what? It don't look like, let me see here. Is it still dripping? It looks like it stopped, guys. Maybe the epoxy shield is still hardening up. It's hard, but you can stick your fingernail into it. This stuff I used on cracks on my floor here. You see that right there on the cement floor? All this right here is all epoxy shield. It's hard as steel, guys, like cement. It's really hard. It's super hard. It's the best thing to come around if you've got cracks in your basement floor or whatever. And that's what I used on this scrubber here. And let me tell you, on this bunghole cap, bunghole, bunghole, bung cap. They're called bung caps, I think. This is hard as steel here. So I'll know now. I've got a few drops since we've been talking. There's a few drops, see? And it's still leaking somehow. If it doesn't stop, I'll be buying a new white barrel and trying to make it better this time. Maybe I'll reinforce this from flexing, try to straighten it out. We'll see. So as the scrubbers run at night, as the light's shining down on the water, running down the craft screens, I got them at Joann Fabrics. Photosynthesis occurs and takes place, and the algae spores from the water and the fuel of the phosphate and nitrates allows the algae a place to grow rapidly on the screens. Light, food, and phosphate, and the screens get covered. And then once they get real thick, guys, I'll clean one at a time and alternate them, in cleaning. But I went the last 3 or 4 months this summer. I didn't even take a screen off. I just did it because the scrubber was down. Like I said, I was fixing the leak. I had 1.5 inches thick on both sides. I didn't think I was going to be able to clean the screens, guys. And it was still running my tanks just fine. But the proper way is every 2 weeks or so, at least, take off one of the screens. I got 2 screens here that cut in half. And clean it good. Just scrape it off. Take a freshwater spray hose and just hose it off real quick. And then put it back up into the spray bar. And let the other one go. So that way it's always eating the phosphates and nitrates. You're not doing away totally. So right now it has to start up anew on the screens. But as you recall, I did clean the bottom, but as you can see, there's still a lot of algae growing on the bottom. And that will help seed the screens quickly. It'll be no time. So it's still working. But it'll grow rapidly back onto the screens. I didn't totally scrape every inch of the bottom of the pan. So as the water runs down there, as the algae grows on the screens, the algae will eat the phosphates and nitrates out of your water. It'll outcompete your display tank eventually, and the algae will only grow in the scrubber, okay, on the screens, because it's eating it faster on the screens than what's going on in your tank. So it starves out your tank, okay? If you can understand that concept, then you understand the scrubber. You run them at night when your tank lights are off. That way your pH, it also keeps your pH more stable for your display tank. So instead of your tank lights all just shutting off at night and nothing more to come until the next day, your scrubber light will still be on for, I'm running this 17 hours. Okay? I'm running these scrubbers 17 hours while the tank lights are off. So my pH doesn't fluctuate much. And I don't even test for pH no more. It's just the 3 biggies. I only test for magnesium. I test first for magnesium, and then I test my alkalinity second, and then the calcium. And it's always the alkalinity that is dropped severely. So tomorrow morning I will be checking the alkalinity in both systems and adjusting accordingly. I use liquid bicarbonate from Bulk Reef Supply, the liquid. It's more economical. Here's a bag right here. Here's what it looks like. You mix it with a gallon of RO water. One cup, I think it's like 1 tablespoon or 1.5 tablespoons to 1 gallon of RO water. Sodium bicarbonate aquarium supplement made with pharmaceutical grade ingredients. And it's great shit, man. I also buy the magnesium sulfate and magnesium chloride. I have them all underneath the Trigger scrubber, all the bags. And then I have my jugs. I have Lipton iced tea plastic jugs with magnesium already made up, sodium bicarbonate made up, and calcium. I have a little bit left in that jug. And I got 3 jugs for each underneath. There's a lot of jugs under there. And then I go to Bulk Reef Supply online. They have a calculator where you enter the volume of water total that you have. So for the Trigger system with the scrubber and the sump and the 125 gallon tank, I have approximately 275 gallon system. And this little scrubber is taking care of the 90 and 125 gallon Trigger tank. No algae, guys. No algae. And this scrubber is only taking care of 120 gallon. Well, actually, it's 175 with the Ruby sump. 36 gallon Ruby sump and 120 gallon. Roughly only 30 gallons of water in the Ruby sump, probably. And about 30 gallons in this. 60 plus 120. 60. About 180. Roughly 180 for the display tank and 275 for the Trigger system. So Anyway, we're over the half-hour minute. We're going on 45 minutes soon. I'm going to say goodbye. I hope you've learned something. I wasn't planning on doing a video so soon, but I wanted to get this one out to you guys. Reefer James is still in it. This is where it's at. This is what I do. Over the years, I've got a ton of crap hanging. I got a UV sterilizer over there I don't even use. Don't need to. You're a pain in the ass. And my top off just kicked on. You can see the light. Hear it? That's a display tank. Shuts off. Keeps my salinity constant. Siphon hoses. I got a whole 5 gallon of bio balls and power heads there. I use circulation. I got a hot 250 Magnum in this Marineland hang on the back canister filter in that black bucket. I use that to clear up the display tank. Take care. God bless, guys. And I'll try to do a video update of the system and the tanks again, probably around Easter. It's going to be a while. I've got other things I want to do, and I'm not pumping out the videos like I used to, but this video, for somebody who wants to start up a scrubber, I think this should have been a lot of information for you. You don't have to doubt. I can tell you that these work from experience. You see my tanks in the other videos. You can see I'm algae free. I've been algae free. I haven't had to do anything. I don't even have to come down and clean the screens if I don't want to. You can see I haven't cleaned this one yet. I'm going to clean one of them soon. I don't have to. It just grows over it. It grows over and over and over and over and over. Finally, this one, the water wasn't trickling so fast anymore. It was just trickling in a few places. I had to clean it. But once you clean it, see how good it flows, and it flows like that all year. And if it stops flowing in spaces at the bottom, across the bottom, I take a toothbrush like this and I scrub the slot up by the slot of the spray bar until it does. Hope you enjoyed the video. Take care. This is Reefer James. It's New Year's Day, January 1st, 2023. It's probably about going on 5 p.m. here, 5:30, maybe later. I gotta go. Take care. God bless. Hope to see you again. Click like, subscribe, please. I'd like to hear from you. If you got any questions, don't be afraid to ask. I'm here. I'm here to help. And when I get online and see them, I'll answer them as soon as I can. With that, I'm going to go. Take care. Hope you've had a good holiday, a good Christmas, good New Year's Eve, and New Year's Day. We'll see you again soon. This is James, and James's Reef Underground. Take care. God bless. But most important of all, guys, let it roll.